So we've got a couple people. We'll give them a second to get in here. But hi, folks. This is our
Yeah,
second
yeah,
live
yeah.
for the day. We had two great experts today. Earlier today, we had Liz Oyer, who is a pardon attorney, talking to us about all the shenanigans that Trump is doing with the pardons and whatnot. And now we've got you to talk about all the shenanigans that RFK Jr. is pulling on our healthcare system. And it's like, it's just a lot.
It
Too
is. It's
much.
been the last 24 plus hours, and I worked a shift yesterday evening. Kind of when I got to my shift, the one reality existed. I got done, and I've got my signal chains are all blowing up, and X is blowing up, and every single channel you follow, there's all these people quitting and people getting fired, then not fired, then finally actually fired the CDC director. It's crazy, and this kind of shakeup, in normal circumstances would be like the scandal of the year, right?
Yeah.
It's
And
just
it's
sort
like
of a
just one
normal,
one day of many.
yeah, normal Wednesday, you know,
So
kind of
tell
normal
folks
day.
a little about you that might not be
Yeah,
familiar with your work yet. You're an ER doctor, actively doctoring while also
yeah,
doing all
yeah,
this
yeah.
activism.
Yeah, yeah. I'm an emergency doc in West Michigan. I've been doing that here since 2001. So I've been at it a little while, work in a small rural hospital in West Michigan. And I do that a little more than half time, but then I spend really the majority of my time doing healthcare advocacy with
Mm.
an organization, the Committee to Protect Healthcare. I'm the executive director. We organize doctors and help amplify voices in service to our patients, looking to pass pro-patient policies, supporting public health, supporting the health of our communities. And then we've recently, as a venture of that, launched a podcast, Paging America, and a Substack, Paging America Substack, exploring the power and politics of healthcare, and how we can make a difference and change the people who are making the policies. And couldn't be more clear than what's going on this week. Why we need people in power who believe in healthcare and science, in doctors and research. There's a real absence of that right now.
My mom did hospice care. She was a hospice care
Oh,
nurse,
okay.
and she has been since retired for a while. And there are several times she's like, I don't know how I would be able to do it. Like just the mental pressure that it is to be an ER doctor, a hospice nurse, or any medical professional, really. And then on top of that, be trying to focus on helping people who are in some sort of trauma right in front of you or some sort of experience right in front of you. And in the back of your mind, always knowing, like, when I get off this call, oh God, what horribleness awaits
Yeah,
me. Like,
right.
how are folks dealing with that? It's gotta be terrible.
I mean, I'd be honest, it is. My physician colleagues, when I work with another doc in a shift, and almost to a person, when they come in or I come in during the middle of their shift or what have you, you give each other a look, you kind of, so do you see
Mhm.
what happened today? Yeah. What are we going to do about this? Right.
Right.
What is going to happen? And particularly with respect to the FDA decision yesterday to severely limit the access to the COVID-19 vaccines in this upcoming season. I mean, I looked at my partner yesterday. I said, can you believe we worked through that? Like we were right there, front lines, sort of the reality, kind of this very significant moment in human history, kind of will be on every
Mhm.
timeline you look at from now on. And now we've got an apparatus of our government, the public health apparatus, that's abandoning us, really abandoning our patients, and sort of saying, well, if it happens again, line up the body bags, line up the refrigerator trucks. There's nothing you can do about it.
Speaking of that, I was in Brooklyn when COVID broke out, and I don't think people really truly understand what it was like to be in Brooklyn. Across from the hospital that was the epicenter was where my apartment was. And when you talk about the
Oh boy.
refrigerated trucks and the body bags and stuff, this is why we ended up leaving the city, because I was out taking the dog on a walk one of the days because still had to walk the dog even though it was like zombie apocalypse out there. And I remember watching them kind of like grab and I was like, they're stacking bodies in that refrigerated truck. They had built like trestles, to like put people on. And I think folks who didn't see that don't understand the severity of what it was like in certain areas. And then the next memory I have is I was doing some work with the Veterans Association of Tennessee, trying to see how we were going to feed our vets who were unhoused. And they were like, we can submit you to get the COVID vaccine early because you're technically a healthcare worker and you're providing food if you want. And I felt like the most special person to be able to
Yeah.
get this COVID vaccine. I got it in an airport hangar on a military base at 11:50 PM was my time, and it was just chairs of people lined up. Remember rich people were trying to, like, buy their way into it? They were
Oh,
going to,
yeah.
like, reservations and trying to get it on the Native American reservations and trying to
Of
skip the
course.
line, and they were desperate for it, and that was
Yeah.
all under Trump. I got
It
that
was.
shot under Trump, and to have him now come back and be like, "Oh, it's so bad," like, how does he square that?
It's one of the most bizarre things I can think of because in all rights, this man should have had hats and banners and signs that said
Sure.
Operation Warp Speed in November of
Yeah.
2020. And we give presidents credit for things that happen on their watch. We also blame them for things that happen on their watch. And
Mhm.
sometimes the blame and the credit has nothing to do with the actual person, right?
Right.
In Operation Warp Speed, I have no doubt whichever president was there, this was based on it, technology, the mRNA technology, and an FDA and a CDC and the NIH and all those folks like doing the work, preparing, having been preparing their lives for this type of a pandemic and the ability to churn out this kind of a remedy so quickly. But
Mhm.
he was the president, right? And so he could say, I did this. And
Yeah.
the fact that he ran away from that and now has allowed this complete kook in there who is dismantling everything. It's hard to understand. I mean, it makes me really, really question people who think, well, Trump is playing 4D chess. He's got all these. I don't think that, if that were the case, this guy would have won in a landslide saying, I brought you this vaccine. I saved you.
Mhm.
Come and vote for me. I wouldn't have voted for the guy. He's got a lot of policies that don't help my patrons. But a lot of people would have, and he would have had the right to say that. I don't understand it.
It boggles the mind the way that he actually did a good thing and has rejected it, and I think it's because he's
Yeah,
such a short-term thinker. This is what I've said is, like, the core problem with Trump is he only thinks about what's right in front of him within the
right.
second, and what he sees in front of him is RFK Jr., who he believes delivered him, millions of votes, which he probably
Yeah.
did,
Oh, yeah.
and so this is what RFK wants to do. Well, whatever, I don't care. He doesn't think about consequence because he doesn't go that far down the line.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't think he really has that much concern for the suffering of, people that aren't connected to him or benefit him in some way. Um,
Mhm.
so, a few thousand people a day die, unnecessarily,
Still.
it just kind of that's just the deal. He'll go golf and life will go on.
Where are we at with the COVID situation? Like, coming into the winter, I've had a lot of folks write to me, they're like, "I'm pregnant. Should I get it now while I still can? Or like, what should I do?" Because we're treating COVID sort of like a flu-ish, right? Like, there are peak times when it's, like, spiking a little bit more. Like, I always thought we would just get the boosters kind of forever.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the way it's going, just like you get your flu shot, or I certainly get my
Yep.
flu shot every year. I have
Mhm.
to get it, where I work in the hospital. And so I'm perfectly happy to do that, right? To prevent myself from getting super sick. And just like the flu shot, I mean, I've gotten the flu after getting the flu shot in the past. I've
I
never been
didn't die
hospitalized,
though,
never got
doc.
super sick. Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's and in some ways, let's be honest, like some of the messaging around the COVID vaccine, promised people more than it was ever expected to deliver. And
Right.
and we have as a public health apparatus, we've learned from that, right? It's unfortunate that so many people latched onto that and then have used disinformation to claim there was something nefarious about what was being said.
Mm.
But yeah, we kind of assumed that. But now that the FDA has severely limited this, um, you know, the CDC, actually, the advisory panel had said they don't recommend pregnant women. And the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the largest body of OBGYNs in this country, truly advocating for pregnant women, they said you should get it, right? Don't listen to the CDC. Now, how do you square that? I mean, what do you do if you're a patient, right? You want to listen to your OB. I think the OBs, by and large, and the ones I know, they saw too many pregnant people get blood clots, too many end up extremely sick because pregnancy is a risk. And so I
Right.
think they will continue to recommend it. And doctors can prescribe this stuff off label. It's just going to make it harder to get when you go down to your local pharmacy and just want to sign up for your time to get the shot. That's the
Right.
part that's going to be hard.
Now, the COVID shot is one thing that uses the mRNA technology, which is like
Yeah.
this miracle science, like a new incredible thing. But RFK Jr. wants to say, oh, the measles vaccine's got aborted fetus debris in it, and the mRNA technology's got a friggin' microchip in it or whatever else, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You talk about what is the mRNA technology and why did they just pull like $500 million out of it?
Well, I mean, this has been around for over a decade, right? They've been doing research on this technology platform. And basically what it does is you take a little piece of code of whatever it is, say the virus in this case, and that gets injected into folks. It never, despite what some of the conspiracies would say, it doesn't incorporate itself permanently into any part of anybody.
Mhm.
mRNA is the piece inside of your cell that is transcribed from DNA. DNA is the part that goes along with all your cells all the time and is there for forever. It makes the RNA that then makes these antibodies that or these proteins that go and fight the virus.
Mm.
But the mRNA platform isn't just for infectious diseases, right? It's been a godsend for responding to this past pandemic, to potentially future pandemics, avian flu or what have you. But for cancer treatment, I mean, there's
Oh.
been trials. We had a close friend who died of a brain tumor at the age of 43, and glioblastoma, like a deadly tumor that strikes people in the prime of their life. There's now, I think, stage 2 trials showing significant promise in targeting these tumor cells, not
Mhm.
having to give chemotherapy that is killing all of their cells. And
Mhm.
like, if we can cure cancer, certain types of cancer with this thing, and they pulled the funding, they pull the funding because this is a guy without any scientific basis or background. He's got a worm in there doing some kind of thing in his brain. And he heard from somebody that this stuff is bad, right?
Yeah.
That there's something wrong with the technology. So the response is, well, we'll pull the research. The
Mhm.
problem is that the damage done, the kind of collateral damage beyond the conspiracy are people with cancer who are going to unnecessarily suffer and have to take treatments that'll harm them. And then truly, like, more people will die, not to be grim.
That's the thing that, like, fucks me up. Like, just even knowing what my mom, would promise people at the end of their life, how it was gonna go. I
Yeah.
can't imagine being a cancer doctor, telling a family, "Hey, we think we've got this thing that we're working on. Maybe we could get you in a trial," and then being like, "The president's, roadkill eating freak Kennedy
Yeah.
is said no." Like, just
Yeah.
that devastation.
Well, I mean, I have one of my best friends is an oncologist, and they, treat folks with breast cancer, and they had someone coming in saying they wanted to take ivermectin instead of, the very a solid, tried and true course of chemotherapy, surgery that had a 95% cure rate. And she looked at her and said, Where is this coming from? He said, Well, ivermectin, there are all sorts of studies, quote studies, people doing their research, and they're not studies, right? There's people's testimonials saying, I did this and it helped. That
Mhm.
isn't how you base treatment, right? That isn't how science works. That someone does something and they say it worked, therefore that is the cure. And so it's like it's already happening without pulling the research on the mRNA. And that, I mean, that all stems from COVID and all the conspiracies and all the disinformation. It just it keeps on churning it out because it's a really good business for a certain group of people who are in on the grift. If
I just
you go
wish.
online, you can buy this stuff online for a small fee, get your
Mhm.
concierge doctor consultation. It's all about someone making money off of somebody.
I wish people would. I mean, if they're gonna do their grift, do your grift, but then leave people alone, right? Like, I wear this
Yeah,
little amber necklace because one time I read something, like, I don't know, while I was getting my tarot done, that said, "Oh,
yeah,
this could help you become." I still take the Lexapro, though. I
yeah,
I don't just wear the amber necklace. I've told myself, like Dumbo said his red feather could help him fly. I was
right, right,
like,
right.
"Yes, I need a belief object because 'cause I'm a permanent person, and it reminds me to
Yeah,
calm down, maybe. I've created that for myself, but I don't
yeah.
not take the Lexapro in addition to it."
Yeah, amen, amen. Yeah, these are people like skipping the treatment that actually works and for the deadly disease and
Yeah.
taking the horse pace. It's bizarre.
Yeah, say the prayer and take the medicine, like, do both things. I get
Amen.
how that works.
I pray with families holding hands around their loved one who is struggling
Yeah.
for their life. But guess what else I do? Give them the antibiotics, right? Give them the drugs to keep their blood pressure up, shock their heart if it needs shocking, and that's their wishes. And you can still pray. Like, let's bring it all to the table, right? We're really,
Yeah.
we're trying to treat people. Yeah, it's crazy.
Speaking of praying, um, somebody is very worried about if they're gonna get in heaven all of a sudden.
Oh, yes,
The
I heard this.
president is hiding his hands, praying that he's gonna get in heaven now. As a doctor, how many people bargain with God when they're close to the end? Like,
Yeah.
what do
What
you
is the
think's going on
statement?
with the hands? Like, what's going on with the swollen ankles? Like,
Yeah,
Best guess.
I
Not
don't
looking
know.
good.
So what they say, there are no atheists in a foxhole. I mean, I think
Right.
that's the statement from Moore. And listen, I have made it a longstanding practice not to try to actually diagnose people from afar. It's hard
Yeah.
enough to do it when they're with you. But
Yeah.
I will say this: the evasiveness and the defensiveness of the folks in the
Mm.
White House about this is a little bit telling. On our podcast today, we interviewed a journalist, oh help me, Sarah Ewall Rice. She writes for the Daily Beast and broke the story on the hand makeup, on the cover up on
Mm.
the hand, and then the next day the makeup was gone. And what she said is, um, nobody really knows, right? They're being told, well, he takes aspirin and shakes a lot of hands, therefore
Oh
he has a
God.
bruise. But she said the real telling thing is that so many people are evading, right? They were told by Caroline Levitt, we'll let you talk to the president's doctor. And then that never happened. They tried calling the president's doctor, tried following up. They got a letter from Ronnie Jackson, if you remember him, right? The
Yes.
former doctor, congressman, doctor of the president with some substance use issues and anger issues, who basically wrote a letter saying this is the healthiest president in the history of this country.
The
Like we can
Candyman, they
objectively
called
look.
him.
There
Yeah.
you go. That guy, you know
Mhm.
him. I mean, I'm ashamed that he's an ER doc. I've sent emails to my professional society multiple times saying, "Can you just at least let this take this guy's letters away from behind his name to spare us all the embarrassment?"
Mhm.
Right. So what's going on with them? I mean, they said aspirin and shaking hands. But I think the good reporter should say, "Well, why is the president taking aspirin?" Because the reality is aspirin as a primary prevention is no longer the standard of care. You only
Mhm.
take aspirin if you've had a heart attack, have documented coronary artery disease, have had a stroke or a TIA mini stroke, like a kind
Mm.
of a warning sign for a stroke. So has the president had any of these conditions? Is the swelling simply from his veins not draining well? It is true that overweight elderly gentlemen, typically their veins don't drain well. They get swelling. There's nothing sinister about that, nothing unique about that. He's a human being, it happens. But
Mhm.
when you have someone taking aspirin, maybe maybe not having as much stamina as he once did, having swollen ankles, all it does is cause people to speculate. Alex Jones thinks he's on death's door, right? Alex Jones thinks he needs more golf time and time away from the job
Mhm.
because he's worried he's going to die. So
Mhm.
I think they'd be smart to just give us the information, right? If the guy had a
Mhm.
minor heart, Bernie Sanders had a heart attack during the campaign, right? If he had a heart attack or ended up needing a heart cath, guy still
Fetterman had
ran,
a
right?
stroke and we still voted for
Fetterman had a
him. I
stroke.
mean, some
He's a
of us
senator.
regret that now,
Senator.
but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Some problems there. But yeah, I mean, humans are they're human, right? They're breakable, they're fallible, things happen. Just tell us the truth. I think we truly deserve that. And yeah, that evasiveness, the elusiveness on their part possibly is telling. I guess we hope that the reporters kind of keep up and we get the real truth.
They're so tired too. I mean,
Mm,
I feel bad for them because I can't imagine, like, being in the circumstance they're in constantly where you're in just the weirdest circus, but we do have to ask better questions. I think there's this sort of, like, normalness to being like, "Okay, well, that's what the press secretary says," but it can't be like that now. I think you're so smart to say, "Well, why is the president taking aspirin?" Like,
yeah.
that'd be
Well, Marjorie
interesting to
Taylor
know.
Greene's husband or boyfriend is one of the people in the in the Oval Office. So
I
that's the
know.
level, the level of scrutiny they're getting.
When they came out with that thing, they were like, "The White House is gonna allow creators," and people were like, "B, you should apply." I was like, "I'm not going to be the personal guest of Caroline Levitt. I know what that looks like. That means you're vetted.
Yeah.
She gives you the question." I'm not why would I do that? I don't wanna be on
No,
any of their
no.
lists. I don't wanna submit
No.
any information to
You
them.
are. You are.
Stay
You're
over
on a list
here.
somewhere. Yeah.
So one of the other things folks are really worried about, are the big beautiful bill
Mm,
thing and the cuts that are coming to Medicaid, and potentially to Medicare in the future, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand. And them not coming in. Oh, maybe they're not going to come in until after the midterm elections, like which I just think
no.
screams guilt. From your perspective, like what are these cuts going to do to your industry?
Yeah, I mean, like there's multiple levels of harm this will cause. Like I can remember patients in my like small rural ER, poor county, a third of our patients who come in had Medicaid. And I've been there since 2002 in that same hospital. And people pre Affordable Care Act, pre Obamacare, Medicaid expansion, coming in time after time with high blood pressure, high blood sugars, diabetes, high blood pressure. We give them meds, we treat them in the moment, we get them home with a prescription for maybe a few months. They can't get a primary care doc. They can't get insurance. They can't afford it. They make a little too much for Medicaid at the time, but not enough where they can actually afford it. Their job is a small employer and they don't have to give them insurance. So you see them back in 2 months, 3 months, having another crisis, having another crisis. Year after year, this builds up. These people are having heart attacks now, 15, 20 years later.
Right.
After the ACA, a million people in my state got health insurance,
Mm.
right? About I think 4,000 in my county. And those same people now have doctors. They can afford
Sure.
insulin, their medications, treat their blood pressure. They're not coming in for that. They might come in for a twisted ankle and you say, hey, blood pressure's pretty good. You haven't been here in a while. Good, good for you.
Mhm.
So I know what it's like pre and post people getting it. And when people lose it again, they lose access to primary care. They lose access to those medications. They still have the ER, but they still get charged. And when they can't pay that, the hospitals have to eat it. They pass it on to insurance, who passes it on to people with insurance.
Mhm.
Then the other piece of this, if those people are coming in and they can't pay for their health care, the hospitals have to make a decision. Can we exist with our razor thin margin and stay open, or are we going to have to close the labor and delivery unit or close the outpatient lab or close the
Mhm.
hospital altogether? We saw one in Curtis, Nebraska, who said they're not going to try to stay open. And they cited directly these cuts that are coming, even though they are sort of cynically happening after the midterms, as you said, so people may not notice it. The decisions are being made. There was recently a story of a hospital in Tennessee that was flooded out with Helene, and they vowed to reopen it. And now that hospital CEO, who was a big fan of Ron DeSantis and part of his health agenda down in Florida, is saying we can't do it because of the Medicaid cuts. We're not going to have the money to do it. So, I
Is
mean, we take it seriously at our committee. We are building a campaign for the midterms to make sure that in 30 congressional districts, we have doctors speaking up about this at every possible turn so people know their representative who voted for this, the harm it's going to do to them, their loved ones, and their communities. And, this is how we build power to actually do good things for patients.
Yeah, because it's not just, "Oh, the hospital closed, there's another one nearby." Sometimes people are now gonna have to drive 45 minutes an hour, that could be life or death. I think about
Could
how
be.
many people won't take an ambulance because they can't afford the ambulance. How many more babies are gonna be born in Ubers? Who can afford the Uber 45 minutes to an hour
Guess
when it
what?
was maybe 15 minutes before? Like, that's a whole other, like, triple the price to
Yeah.
even do that. Like, there's just
Well,
so many compounding issues.
and I've never seen an Uber in our small community, to be honest. Like, so
Right, if you even
that
have it, right?
yeah, that's driving the car and spending your gas that costs, 3.50 a gallon or so, and trying to get to that place. But then it isn't just for people with Medicaid who lose, it's everyone in the community. If
Everyone.
the hospital goes away, it doesn't matter if you have insurance, doesn't matter if you have Medicare, whatever you have, that hospital goes away. And so it isn't just, if people want to be selfish about it and think of it that way, and think of themselves, it will impact people who don't get Medicaid right now. So yeah, I mean, we have to keep bringing this up, keep highlighting it. Apparently, Vance is in Wisconsin today, touting the benefits of this big bill. They're going to keep pounding it because they have nothing else they can do. So we have to flood the zone, kind of
Right.
talking the truth.
One of the other promises that Trump made on the campaign trail was that IVF would be free and
Oh
your
Lord,
insurance would cover it.
yeah.
Boy, IVF is so expensive. It's so expensive and it's so like emotionally expensive and financially expensive. And now he's sort of walked away from that entirely. And now RFK is coming in with like, no, 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 we've got natural ways to do IVF.
What is he talking? I don't know. I hadn't heard that,
He's got
but I
him
don't
taking,
doubt it
like,
for one
vitamin
second.
K. He's like, "If you take vitamin K," so now people are gonna I overdose on vitamin K while they're trying to have a
Mm,
baby. That can't be
yeah.
good. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, he's the father. We actually said on our podcast he's the deadbeat daddy of IVF now.
he
Made
is.
a promise and then he just leaves them hanging. So,
I mean, that's
yeah,
such
I
a that
mean
was
that
such a
tracks.
big part. I know so many people who talked about in my comments and online were like, "Look, I don't like everything this guy's doing, but it is my personal dream to have a family, and IVF is 18,000, 36,000, however many $1,000, and man, if that could get covered by insurance, that would be life-changing for so many people. So many folks are having children later in life. They really need this more than maybe in history." And
Right.
he completely blew it on him. He's like, "Nah, nah. I've done nothing to make IVF more
Right,
accessible."
right. Well, it's just like he said previously with healthcare. Who knew it was so difficult, right? It is difficult to figure out how to do that, but if you have the will to do it, you can. You could just say the government covers it. You could
Yeah,
mandate insurances have to cover it, right? He's signing executive orders about burning flags. He certainly could sign an executive order about assisting people who want to have a family. He's certainly allowed the Supreme Court to take away people's choice to decide when they're going to have a family. He had no will. He has no vested interest in it. It doesn't benefit him, doesn't benefit enough people that are around him. The folks that he knows, the folks that he hangs out with, they can afford 36,000 if they need IVF. It doesn't affect their lives. Yeah, it's really crass, but it sort of tracks. And I think it is sort of one of those, it's a little piece of legislation, a little piece of his stump, but you're right. It is so deeply personal and passionate for so many people. It has to be talked about. People have to be reminded of this promise made, promise broken.
He took the babies out of these people's arms. They were going in
Mhm.
that voting booth believing that they were gonna have a family, and maybe now they're
Yeah,
not. Like, that cut. That
it
cuts.
does. It does. Yeah, I feel for those folks.
So what do we do, doc? How do we today's supposed to be good news only,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not give everybody even more anxiety news only. Like, what is there anything what can we do? Who are the helpers right now? There's gotta be
Right, right.
helpers.
I mean, we do what we're doing, right? We keep talking about it. We don't shirk our responsibility to highlight the hypocrisy and the danger that they're causing, right? So we brave, we stand up, we let ourselves be seen. I think for me and for our organization, like I said, we're just launching today a letter, hoping to get tens of thousands of signatures of doctors around the country, urging Congress to do oversight, right? Do their job when it comes to RFK and HHS and CDC. All these people resigned. They fired the director. The FDA is doing things totally outside of the bounds of real science.
Mm,
Bill Cassidy, Senator Cassidy in Louisiana, was told he had assurances. Senator Tom Tillis in North Carolina said in an interview he voted for RFK Jr. because Cassidy convinced him he's got that I have these assurances. And so in the light of that, like these guys have been duped. He lied to
mm,
them. So we are urging doctors to go on. We'll be getting them out through all the channels. We got 36,000 docs that are advocates with the committee, but reaching out to hundreds of thousands more to sign on and then to commit and through this letter to send a letter to their member of Congress urging them to do oversight. I think that's step one. I think step two is frankly is changing the people who are in charge. Right, that starts next year. I revel in the ability to be political in this moment. Just like when there's a mass shooting, they say this isn't the time for politics. No bullshit. This is absolutely the time for politics because politics is what prevents change from
mhm,
any of this. But this just keeps happening. The gun violence, this anti-vaccine crap, cutting healthcare from people and trying to do it at every single turn, taking away a person's right to bodily autonomy with
mhm,
the fall of Roe. That is all politics. So if we don't want to mix it up in politics and make it political, then we should just kind of sit down and accept it.
mhm.
Um, I'm not doing that. You're not doing that. Our
No.
organization's definitely not doing that.
So tell folks where they can find you because we've got a bunch of people here, and this is a great audience, the Dust Bunnies. They're doers, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
help
yeah.
with the petition, help with making sure, maybe even giving you guys ideas about stuff when we're coming to 2026 that are pain points. Like we just seemingly figured out that this IVF thing might be something to really like remind people of that he did that.
Absolutely.
Where can
Absolutely.
folks find you?
Yeah, on Substack, Paging America, podcast Paging America, and then the Committee to Protect.org is the Committee to Protect Healthcare. Probably for a lot of these folks, a doctor in your community, maybe your doctor is a part of the group of people who are stepping up and stepping out and letting our voices be heard on behalf of our patients.
Will you come back and chat with us again if we have more doctor questions?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. You guys know how to get me. So I'm happy to be back
Because
anytime.
none of us have health care. We might need you to take a
Uh,
look at something every so often.
absolutely. All right.
It was so good to meet you, Dr. Rob.
You
We'll see
too.
you again soon. Thank you so much
Thanks, Faith.
for helping us understand.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Bye.